Hello everyone, today I am demonstrating acrylic application in real time using a 1 bead and 2 bead method, and I'll be using our Little Luxuries Pro Kolinsky brush in the size 18, which is perfect for long extensions. So I'm going to start with the 1 bead method first. I'm just going to place the acrylic at the back of the nail with the finger tilted downwards and gently press the acrylic up into the cuticle without touching the skin. It is important that you keep your nail tilted down at all times and let gravity work for you, not against you. So at this time, the acrylic is still pretty wet, so I'm just going to use the very tip of my brush with very light pressure and guide the product down the length of the nail. And I'm working from sidewall to sidewall, always making sure that the product is on top of the nail and never underneath it. And you'll see here that as the acrylic is starting to cure, it is getting harder. So I'm going to use the belly of my brush and a little bit more pressure and more strokes to make sure that the acrylic reaches the end of the nail tip. And I'm actually going to leave a little bit of excess at the tip of the nail so that I can cut it off really cleanly and get a really crisp shape. And I'm just gonna use my brush to gently tuck in those sides. And trust me, you guys, if you can get your application down, your shaping and filing time will be cut in half. Look how beautiful this application is. The tip is nice and thin. Moving straight into 2 bead application here, I'm going to place the first bead right where the natural nail and the tip meets. And again, let gravity do its thing and just use the tip of your brush to gently guide the product into place. You'll see again, I am always checking the sides to make sure that I'm not creating any extra bulkiness. So making sure that there's no acrylic underneath the nail. And as the acrylic is starting to cure now, I'm going to use the belly of my brush and a little bit more pressure and a few more strokes to make sure that the product reaches the end. And you'll see that I do a few more like extra strokes here, and that is to make sure that I'm getting all the excess product off so that the tip of the nail is not too thick. So you'll see me cut off the excess acrylic here in just a second with my thumb again. You could also use your brush for this, but I find that using my thumb is a little bit quicker. So you're gonna see me dip my brush back into the monomer in just a second, and you'll see that I kind of tap the sides of the brush against the dish a few times, and that is to gauge how much liquid is actually in my brush whenever I pick up my cuticle bead. You don't want your cuticle bead to be too wet or too dry, so knowing your liquid to powder ratio is super important here. I'm gonna place that bead right at the cuticle and again tilt the nail down and push the bead into the cuticle, not touching the skin. And then watch how smoothly this blends. Oh, it's so satisfying. So I'm just creating the apex there and gently pushing any excess product back into the upper arch of the nail. And there you have a beautiful 2 bead application. And I'm just gonna show you again from a different angle because I wanted to show you what happens whenever you use a little bit of a wetter bead for beginners. So here I'm going to do another 2 bead application with a bit more of a wet bead. And as you can see, it immediately starts to kind of run a little bit more because it's a little bit heavier. And this gives you a little bit more time to play with it. So you have to be super gentle at this time whenever the acrylic is super wet. So be very, very gentle with the tip of your brush. It's only here towards the end of the nail that I start to use a little bit more pressure and using the belly of my brush to get that excess product off the tip of the nail. And if you're curious to know what powder and liquid we're using, that is actually a secret. We cannot tell you at the moment, but wait to hear a very special announcement later on this spring. So again, with the cuticle bead, I'm going with a little bit of a wetter bead, and I'm just gonna place it back at the cuticle and keep the finger tilted down. I wanted to show you this specifically because you'll see here on the right side there's a little bit of spillage right into her sidewall there, but I'm not going to fix it immediately. I'm just going to make sure that the rest of the bead blends really seamlessly over the initial bead. And then right here I'm using the very, very tip of the brush to scoop up that excess product into the upper arch of the nail again, which is why I actually love this brush. It's so pointy and it's really, really nice to get into those crevices whenever you do make those little mistakes. So again, this was just a real-time tutorial on how to do a 1 bead and 2 bead acrylic application. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked it, please share, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.